What's going on, motivators? So excited to be back. I took a hiatus last week, but never fear. We went from episode 12 to episode 14. I'm going to come back and do episode 13 on Tuesday with my intended guest, so look out for that one. Don't forget, I normally don't do this in the beginning, but don't forget, we got some Motivate with Iz shirts going out, and the website is live, and you can find that on all of my social media sites, or just go to the Shopify site, Motivate with Iz, and check out the gear. Get some mindset gear for the motivator. And these are the new ones. I got basically Raglands out now, and they have all the sayings on the back. Currently, I'm wearing Be Intolerant of Mediocrity. So go check it out and get some shirts. Support Motivate with Iz. So I'm pretty excited today. I got Dean Howell here. It's his fault, really. He and I did a podcast. He is a podcaster, and his podcast is called the Rising Sun Podcast. Shortly after I retired last year, he's like, "Come on, man, we got to do this." So I jumped on with him, and in the middle of that one, he kind of called me out, and I explained that I wasn't really believing my own bullshit, which is why I hadn't done Motivate with Iz in a year or so, year and a half. And slowly but surely, through the retirement hangover, I found my way back to Motivate with Iz. And then I just kind of blew through the tape and created a business, and really excited about the things that are going on inside that four-headed beast, if you will. Personal training, leadership coaching, motivational speaking, and of course the mindset gear for the motivator. So really excited about that. And really, in the end, I kind of have Dean to thank for it. So here he is. He's going to join us. I'm going to bring him on. Without further ado, father, husband, sailor, podcaster, coach, and patriot, Dean Howell. What's going on, Dean? How you doing, brother? Let me take you off on mute. There we go.
Hey, what's up, man?
What's
going
on?
Thanks for having me on, brother. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you here.
Hey, man, you're welcome.
Yeah.
How's that?
I appreciate it. I don't know. It's funny. I kind of pay attention because my followership isn't really huge, and it was kind of fun because it's growing slowly on all my different social media sites. And, Heather got me to start up my Instagram, which I never had before. Really didn't have an interest in the Instagram. So when you don't have hundreds of thousands or thousands and thousands of followers, you kind of pay attention to the numbers you have. And it was fun to watch it grow over the last just 2 to 3 months. And some days it'll actually go down. And it's fun because you like lose 1 or 2 folks, and then you go, well, that's all right. That's okay.
All right.
They were my people.
Exactly.
It's all right. I mean, some folks hang out because they just want to see whether or not, they're rooting for your failure or they're rooting for your success.
Yeah.
And I love
it, man.
I actually enjoy having the folks around that are rooting for my failure, because eventually they're going to learn that this is truly who I am. I know it's who you are. You're genuine every day on all
100%.
of all your reels and everything that you do. So, it's fun. It's fun. And when you have a unique freedom that at least a retired guy, you'll be there soon, or eventually, not too soon, but
eventually.
And, well, you'll believe it or not, you'll go from the young guy to the old guy really quick. Trust me. I was a baby Master Chief at one point, with Force Master Chiefs making fun about how they should put diapers on me. Then I looked around, and all the Master Chiefs in my last mess, I had been a Master Chief for 15 years. And I think the oldest, twin screw wearing Master Chief had only made it 2 years prior. So, it was interesting to go from like the baby guy leading to all of a sudden you're the old goat. So
Yeah. I mean, in the military sense, I'm kind of experiencing that a little bit myself. And, I'm not at 15 years as a mass chief, but, I made chief back in 2008. And so in Millington, actually. And so I've been in the mess basically my entire career is the way I don't know, I made it at 7 years. And so I was talking, to a couple of guys about this yesterday. Like, my experience in the Navy is as a chief. I don't really remember a time before it. I mean, I know that well, it's probably because I was drunk the whole time, but that's another story, right? Like, first 7 years of my career, a little bit of a blur, but and then I've been a mass chief since 2016 at this point. So, yeah, man, I get it. I don't feel old yet. I still look in I look in the mirror, I'm like, yeah, you're pretty old, bro, but I don't feel it. And I recently kind of I'm on day 70. Today is day 70 of 75 hard.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about it.
I figure we might get into that, but and not to really go too deep into it, but day 70 of 75 hard, I've kind of gotten back to who I always was, in a sense, that my body is healthy again. I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh, there you are, and that a lot of people, like, they shit on people that care about their physique. And I know you do, right? And I share that same kind of desire to have like a nice physique.
Yeah. And to be clear, we don't shit on anybody. We care about our physique. Yeah.
Right. Like I want my physique I want to look good. I want to look good when I put my clothes on. I want them to fit, and
right.
You see a lot of people talk about it, that like, that's the one thing you can't buy, man. You can't buy it. You can't cheat it. Like, if you want a nice physique, if you want to be, big and built and defined, like, you got to work at that shit every day. You have to watch what you eat. You got to go to the gym. You got to get your cardio in. You can't, there's no cheat code to that. You have to do the work. Right. And so it's an indicator. It's an indicator of what you're doing in your life, kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing that I've noticed since I've been, I guess, full-time in the fitness industry for the last 2.5 months, my vast experience in the civilian fitness industry, is that the only cheat code is if somebody's on gear, right? So if they're taking steroids or whatever, but even those cats have to put in the work.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely 100% right. There is no cheat code. There's no left, right, right,
Right.
and then all of a sudden you win the game and you're fit. It's work. You have to work.
Yep.
And I crave it personally.
Yep,
I live for it, man. I get up in the morning, and my focus after coffee anyway is, how am I going to take care of myself first? Right. It's morning where you are. It's afternoon here. But yeah, I didn't tell the listeners that you were over in Japan.
Yeah.
But no, it's that you got to work hard and lift heavy. Whatever your goals are, it doesn't matter. You don't have to lift heavy. I used to do the run, lift, repeat, and my back is so jacked now that I'm happy if I do cardio 3 times a week. And but I'm still in the gym, because if and someone when I started one of my jobs, a girl, she says, when I told her how old I was, she's like, holy crap, what's your skincare plan? And I said, and then as I started studying personal training and really getting into the physiology of resistance training, especially, it is the fountain of youth. I truly believe that
100%.
resistance training is the fountain of youth. You want to stay young. You want to stay young longer, be able to do things you want to do longer, then lift heavy stuff, move heavy things around, stay flexible. Absolutely. Because one of my least favorite things to do is stretch, and you'll have a much longer, more fulfilling life.
Absolutely, man. I've found that. I mean, I knew it, and I probably, if I look at my life, I had a pretty serious injury in Hawaii, blew my Achilles, and that I had never really truly been injured. You get dinks and whatever. You hurt your shoulder, you hurt your ribs, you have a concussion in football when you're young and whatever, right? But like that was the first time that I think I probably truly acknowledged that I was, not going to live forever and that I wasn't invincible, right?
Right.
And looking back on it, that was in 2016 when I blew my Achilles, and I didn't do the physical therapy the way I should have, and I just was like, all right, I got to get back on the horse. I got to get back to it. I got to get back to it. And now I look back on it, and that was 6 years, and there was probably a 6 year period where I just wasn't really paying attention to my health, and I think part of it was that like I fell off so quickly because of the injury, and then I just kind of like just continued down that path. I wasn't eating right. I wasn't taking care of my body, and 2022 was a real wake up call for me. 2021, I lost my brother. He died from a fentanyl overdose. I'm very open about it. It's terrible.
I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's terrible, and not to be doom and gloom. It's shitty, right? But
Right.
he was an addict most of his life, and he had cleaned up, but off and on, that kind of thing. And then the following year, I lost my dad, and my dad was 89. He died with COVID, but obviously he was diabetic, and he was 89. Man, he's old, and not to be dismissive of it, it's just that like it is what it is, but it was devastating. And I think in 2022, I was on an unaccompanied tour in Misawa, and that's when I really started looking like, I'm there by myself. I'm looking in the mirror like, holy shit, dude, like look at yourself, like what you've really kind of let yourself go. And so then over 2022, I had like successive tries at, trying to complete 75 hard. And once you get off the horse, man, like it's hard to get back on, and even if you kind of like in your mind, we talk about like, you got to fix your mind first. Sometimes it takes a few attempts. Like, all right, I'm gonna get back on this horse. I'm gonna get back on this horse. You get bucked off. I'm gonna get back on this horse. You get bucked off. And then you remember what it feels like to be back in the groove. You remember what it feels like to be healthy. You start to make these changes in your life. And then, this time it stuck, right? It really stuck. And so like, I feel healthy. I feel like I did circa 2015 right now. And it feels fucking fantastic, man. And I agree. It's all about lifting heavy things. I kind of tweaked my shoulder Tuesday at Command PT. In the pool of all things, like get the fuck
really?
out of here. Yeah, dude. Like we were like treading water, and I like tweaked my shoulder. I was like, "Come on, dude."
Yeah.
And so I've had to take the last few days off, and I haven't been in the weight room, but it's getting better, and I'll be back Monday. But again, as you get older, you got to give your body that time to recover, and then I'll hit it again. But just like your mental health doesn't even feel as good if you're not moving things around, if you're not hitting the bench, if you're not doing the shoulders, if you're not, doing the deadlifts, like your mental health just isn't quite there, even with the cardio,
Yeah, no, so I had the heart issue. So I had a heart issue when I was in Memphis and Millington in 2018, right after I left RTC. So AFib hit me pretty hard. And then, I had a shoulder issue, and in 2019, and this is nothing compared to what losing people. I can't imagine. Well, I lost my dog, man, and it was weird. And I had him for 16 years. So after the AFib, the shoulder moved to in the middle of COVID, moved out to Norfolk, and my dog died, and then AFib came back. And then I had another ablation, which is second, procedure on my heart. And through the course of those 3 or 4 years, I did exactly like you. Just let it go, put on 15 pounds, which is weird because, I'll get to that in a minute, but I put on like 15 pounds. Actually, when I retired, I barely fit into my uniform because I hadn't lost my size. I just put on the layer of fluff on top of it.
Yep.
And went from, Millington. I left RTC at like 218. By the time I retired, I was 229. And then through last summer, I got up to 235 and currently weighing in at 235, but down 2 belt loops. So it's just because I'm back in the gym. I'm lifting heavy things, muscle memory's kicking in. And And, I feel personally, and, I saw something today. It's a great example is the scale doesn't always tell you really where you're at. Sometimes you got to break out the tape measure, measure your waist, take a look at where your biceps are, take a look at where your thighs are. And that'll give you a good idea of really where you're gaining, especially if you're somebody who's looking to grow muscle. If you're a younger person, especially, that's, are you losing inches, but not losing weight? Then screw what the scale says.
Yeah.
Just get in the gym and do something. But I will tell you, man, I've been watching your journey the last 75 days or 70 days, and there's been a transformation. I hope you have a before picture that you're going to put up side by side. Especially in your face, man. It's been absolutely.
Yeah, I have a chin. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that jawline. It's fucking fantastic, man.
Yeah, you do. You look good. And so my question, as a guy who, here's my question, and this is we were talking about my cousin. I'm working with my cousin for those that watch this. She's on a long journey. I've set some expectations with her, and this isn't going to be an overnight thing. She's got a lot of weight to lose, and she's doing great. But I'm working on behavioral change with her. So after 75 days for you, what's your expectation? Like, that's my biggest question with programs or things like that, the 90-day fitness or 75 days or whatever. Now what about day 76, 77, 78, 79?
Yeah. So I posted last night actually, man. And it's, I can probably, it's worth it, I think, to pull it up. Right. So I normally wouldn't get on my phone, man, but I posted right here, and maybe you can see, right? So I'll get in the camera.
Yeah.
So what I posted was, so every day I post my, my status, what day I'm on. And right there I posted, and I typed in 76, 77.
Nice.
And what I said was, this is the whole point of 75 hard. The whole point of 75 hard is that, I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm on day 70 because the computer machine tells me I am. But what it really means is that, like, on day 76, nothing happens, man. I'm not going to go drink a 6-pack of beer. I'm not going to, cut a fucking cake. I'm not going to, eat a whole fucking pizza. Those things are gone. After 75 days, like we talk about 21 days to set a habit and blah, 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 right? Like 21 days is easy, man. You can do fucking almost anything for 21 days, right?
Right.
75 days of 2 workouts per day, 1 gallon of water, read 10 pages in a book. All of the tenets of 75 hard. There's a lot of shit, man. And when you do it consistently for 75 days and you don't miss a note, and if you miss anything, you start over from the beginning. Now you've really set a habit, and you haven't just set a habit, you set a lifestyle. And, it could be anything, but the good thing about 75 hard is that it gives you a framework, right? It gives you a framework to say, okay, for these 75 days, I'm going to do this. And I'll tell you, it's probably somewhere around day 50, you start to kind of worry, just like what you're talking about. You start to worry. You're like, all right, dude, like what happens on day 76? Like, what am I going to do then? And then now I'm at day 70. I know what happens on day 76. On day 76, I wake up, I fill my water bottle, I go for my 45-minute walk outside, and I look at the sunrise, and then I go to work, and then I get another walk in maybe at lunch, and then I hit the weights in the afternoon. Like, I have the routine. And the routine now, if I don't do those hard things, like, this is the baseline. And other things I'm doing is I write for an hour every night for the book that I'm writing. And I do 5 minutes of dedicated visualization, and, I do 80 air squats, or I do 80 push-ups, whichever I choose for the week. And those are on top of the things that I'm doing for 75 hard. And so, like, this program has become the baseline. Like, this is what I will do. These are my non-negotiables. I will do these things regardless, come hell or high water. I don't care if it's raining, snowing, sleeting. I'm going to walk outside for 45 minutes, period, end of fucking story. If I have to do it around the airport, I'll fucking do it if I'm traveling, right? And so, I agree. A lot of programs can, die on the vine. And this one could too, easily. But if you approach it with the right intent, then on day 76, you just keep doing the same shit. You keep doing the same shit, right? And that's what I intend to do. And I don't know, man. You know, I of course I'm grateful for the program. It's been fantastic, but more than anything, I'm grateful. You know, I'm grateful for myself, man. And we've talked about this, like, you know, like I invested in myself finally.
Hmm.
And it's so funny to see, like, you know, my somewhere around day 30, my 16-year-old, she's like, "Hey, you want to start going to the gym?" I was like, "Well, I'm going anyways." She's like, "Well, I'll go with you." Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then my wife's like, gets off work. She's like, "I think I'm gonna go sit in the sauna." I was like, "Okay, come on, let's all go." And so the whole family will just go to the gym together. Right.
Right.
And dude, and I don't say anything about it, but in my mind, I'm like, see, this is what happens, Dad, when you set a good example. When you
Mm.
set a good example, your family fucking follows. And so even if you look in the mirror and you think you're a fraud, that's okay. Do it fucking anyways, man, because you're going to inspire people. And the people that you inspire are just as important as the thing that you're doing for yourself. So that's kind of the way I look at it is.
Well, those are the most important people in your life. I mean, that's all that matters, right? You're the leader of your household. My household's the same. My wife is very traditional, and one of the reasons I married her is because we're both very traditional. You know, it's kind of a triangle: God, me, her, and we're going up together at the same time.
Love it.
And uh, but yeah, you know, that's extremely important, is to set the tone for the household. And I really, you know, and that kind of gives me a good segue into what I wanted to talk about next, is leadership. And um, you know, if you're if you start there, you make your impact at home, and you expand outward in your sphere of influence, then really, what does it matter if you have haters? You know, for those that watch both my podcast and follow my content, you know, I woke up yesterday to an email, or not it was a DM. It's funny, is like, you know, women have guys sliding into their DMs. We have haters sliding into ours. You know, I literally, and I don't think that everyone that saw my video yesterday quite understand. And let me put it into perspective. And I don't know if you've had this, so please chime in. I've had death threats in
Mm,
my DMs.
mm,
You know, I've had people that I held accountable uh, threaten my family and threaten me on either Facebook or, you know, whatever other social media that they could reach out to me. You know, there were people I couldn't reach at that point. I think the two that I can think of off the top of my head, they were both already out of the Navy. One of them ended up going to jail because he was stalking one of my sailors, and we managed to get him held accountable. But it, it, you know, some people do come around, right? Some, as
yeah.
a leader, when you're holding people accountable, let me get to the accountability and leadership piece. You know, some people do come around, and I know some folks jumped on my post yesterday and was like, "Hey, you know, those phone calls are great. They are. They're wonderful. It is amazing when you watch people recover." And I could tell you this, and I'm going to pass it over to you. I hated, you know, you talk about not remembering being a junior sailor. I do. I had a buddy on my first ship, the Tycho, who screwed up. And then it didn't seem like the chain of command gave him the opportunity to recover. It seemed like they were waiting with bated breath to hold him accountable and kick him out of the Navy because he didn't belong in their canoe club, right? And I remember that as a second class, like just holding on to that, going, you know, the typical thing: when I get there, I'm not going to be like that. I
Yeah.
could I promise you that that stuck in my head the entire time I was a leader, whether command master chief or a chief or even a petty officer. When I was pushing boots, I was the same way. You know, um, I, that accountability was important because people get better due to the accountability. But you know, not everybody gets there, man. Not
Yeah.
everybody gets there. And if you're going to blame me for it 10, 15, 20 years later, then you got some bigger problems, especially if you're going to slide in LinkedIn and tell me what a piece of crap I am. So
Yeah.
anyway, over to you. You tell me what kind of experiences you've had. You know, if you want to share them. I know in your position currently, it
Yeah.
might be a little bit more difficult, but
Yeah. I mean, no, man, we're good. I mean, speaking of the accountability piece and just kind of anecdotally, I mean, no names here, but in my first ride as a command master chief, we had to DFC one of our senior chiefs, and it was a performance thing. Like it wasn't like some drastic. They didn't get a DUI. They weren't fucking the hell. They weren't. It wasn't anything like that, right? Like they just fucking sucked, and like at some point we had to start documenting, and so anybody that's familiar with this knows that if you're going to DFC an E6 or above for performance, then you have to document it over a period of at least a year. And that's rough because that person is doing a terrible job for a year. Like, what's coming. You see the train coming down the tracks and you're trying to help them and they're just not responsive. And in fact, they push back on everything that you try to support them with. And, it wasn't just me. It was the entire mess, like trying to sit down with this person and like, hey, listen, you really need to like do this, this, and this. And here's where we could use more help. And anyways, we ended up documenting over a year and, we DFC'd this person, and this person was obviously not very happy with that decision by the command to detach for cause. We also didn't make a recommendation against retention. I mean, we said, hey, maybe there's a place where this person can succeed, but an FDNF warship, getting ready to go on patrol, coming out of the basic phase, like you never should have sent this person here. Period. End of story. And like that was a hit on the community for ever sending the person there. They had never been on the ship. And so this was their first sea duty, and they sent them to a freaking destroyer in Yokosuka. Like, come on, man. Like they set this person up for failure, first of all, but that's a whole other story. And bro, I mean, I caught I think I caught 4 IGs, like 4 different hotline complaints over this, myself and the XO and the CO. This person just wouldn't let it go. Just would not let it go, would not let it go, would not let it go. DFC is detachment for cause in the military. So that means that we basically fired them, right?
Yep.
And so
thanks for the question, Sue.
Absolutely. And like I caught a lot of flack over this, and I caught a lot of flack in the community over it too, because there was like, was it really that bad? And I was like, hey man, it is what it is. Like at the end of the day, we had to do the right thing for the crew. I'll take that heat. So I took a lot of heat in our community for, well, you couldn't get this person right. No, motherfucker, I couldn't. This person was fucking terrible. That's why this is a DFC package going to Millington. We were very deliberate in our consideration in doing this in the first place. Otherwise you wouldn't be reviewing the package. So I caught a lot of heat over that, but also this person I should say put in a lot of IG complaints, and eventually it died, right? Eventually it was like, whatever, this person moved on, they went on to their next job. Apparently they did well because they didn't get DFC'd again. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough job, man. Any leadership job. And for anybody watching this, like, please don't take this as that, like, that's the norm, because it's not. The norm is that, like, people want to do a good job, and you set a framework for them and say, all right, man, like, what do you want? What do you want out of this tour? What do you want out of the, your career? What do you want? Let's talk about it. Let's set some goals for you. And what I tell every person that checks in with me is, it doesn't matter, 06 to E1. When they sit down and they check in with me, I tell them, here's the number one thing I want for you. At the end of this 2 or 3 year tour, you're going to be standing out in the courtyard, and the CO is going to be giving you your Navy Commendation Medal for a job well done over this last 3 years. And, you're going to get your nice certificate from the command, that we do for you, that's separate from the end of tour. And you're going to be standing there and you're going to be shaking the CO's hand, and in that moment, I want you to think to yourself, man, that was a good fucking tour. I want you to think to yourself, I got everything done that I wanted to do. All the goals that I set for myself. My family is in a better place. My health is better. I've progressed in my career. I want you to think to yourself, that was a good tour, man. Like, I really enjoyed it. Like, I'm going to miss this place. And if you think about that now, and that's where you want to be in 3 years from now, well, we got some work to do, right? But that's what I want for every person that's in my command is when they're
They
done.
have work to do. They
That's
have
right.
work to do. Okay, so
That's right.
I'm going to get a little bit, and I was going to ask you this question. Have we gone down a path in leadership that is too much empathy? Like, I believe in leading with empathy. I truly do. But there's got to be an element of toughness. There's got to be an element of toughness where you're pushing somebody and holding, again, I get back to the accountability because people like melt like a freaking popsicle on an August afternoon, that, oh my God, I can't believe you were upset with me. I did my best. Wasn't good enough.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You suck. Do a better job.
Yeah.
People literally fold when some, not all, some fold. Some is like my favorite word in the last 24 hours, but too much empathy. It's been this, oh, we got to lead with positivity. We got to coddle, we got to hold. And, and honest to God, Dean, and I'm mad at myself for this. So I apologize to the last 3 or 4 commands that I led. I was not tough enough.
Yeah.
Because I lost myself in trying to be an empathetic leader and, got to be positive, stand up and give the motivational the speech and tell everybody how great they are. And I lost myself. I lost myself in the fact that you need to be able to stand up there and go, no. And I know I tried to do it a couple times, especially in Millington. Boy, did I lose that group. And I did it in Millington, but I did it in a way that was so abrasive because I was flip-flopping instead of just being consistent. I was, empathetic dick, empathetic dick, empathetic. So then you just become an empathetic dick and you're not
and you're inconsistent. Yeah.
Right.
You're inconsistent.
Right. So shame on me for not just being true to myself. But how do you feel about that style of leadership? Have we gone too empathetic? Or are we just adjusting to lead the new generation that we currently have, and it's necessary?
Yeah, I think this goes bigger than the Navy, right? I think that if this is culture, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the culture, and I think that I certainly think that we are at the trough of the wavelength right now, where it may be on the rebound, maybe we're climbing back up, but certainly in the last several years we've been at the trough where you gotta be so nice and like lower your expectations, right? Like but I do feel like and I like to think that it's part of my job, both in my day job, right? My job as a command master chief, but also in my job as like a podcaster and a creator and those things that I do that I see my future as. I think it's important that I have a pulse of, I guess, society and culture. And so I look out over it and I try to take notes and I try to see what the culture is doing. What are we doing? Right. And I feel like we're on the rebound from this like touchy feely, you have to coddle everyone. And I think we're on the way back up where it's like, no, like, yes, you must be empathetic. You must be. As a leader, you must be empathetic. Absolutely should be. But you have to set a framework and say, these are the fucking expectations. Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure that we're both very clear on what the expectations are. And you're going to repeat them back to me so that I know that you understand. And then we're all going to have this common picture. We're all going to have this common framework for what the expectations are. And then we're going to talk about what happens when you don't meet that expectation. And I don't have to be a dick about it. I don't have to be like, hey, you son of a bitch. Like, I don't have to be an asshole about it. I just got to tell you, like, here's the framework. Here's the expectations. Here's, you already know what the good things are. If you meet these expectations, you're going to promote, you're going to do well in your career. You're going to feel satisfied. If you don't, then we also need to talk about what's going to happen in that case. And for me, like David Carter, he's, a good friend and mentor of mine. I love David. And he used to say, and I have a hard time with this because I am a very, impassioned type of leader, but I've gotten better at it. And what he used to say is you got to remain emotionally detached, right? RED, remain emotionally detached.
Yeah. It's
hard. It's fucking hard, man. Yeah. But you know, I think that when you're talking about holding people accountable, you certainly have to, right? Like, hey man, I'm not mad at you. It is what it is. Like
Oh,
we
yeah, if
we
you're talking
talked
about
about
that
the
kind of emotional, sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sure,
Right, right,
sure,
right.
sure,
Yeah, yeah.
sure.
Like when you're holding people accountable, like I'm not gonna throw shit at you. I was like, hey man, like we talked about it. Remember we had this conversation? You're not there. And do you agree that you're not there? Yes. Okay, well, you're not there. So then here's what happens, as a result of that. Um, and in that sense, I think we have to remain emotionally attached. Now, you're going to certainly be emotionally attached to the lives of the people that you have influence over and that you lead. You must be, right. You must have empathy, and you must have, an emotional attachment to those type of things. But once it comes time to hold somebody accountable, like, hey man, it's strictly business at that point. And we talk about it, but like truly you have to practice that. But yeah,
Sure.
to answer your question, that was a long answer to a short question. Is I think that we probably still are sitting in this area where we're a little too fucking nice. But as I look at culture and I look at kind of the way society is going, there's a desire for some group of people, coaches, mentors, to take a little bit harder stance, right? That's why people are so hungry for discipline, right? We talked about this. They're so hungry for discipline because they don't fucking have it, and nobody's showing them how to do it. And so they look at guys like David Goggins. They're
I
like,
was gonna
"Oh my
go
god,
there.
it's
I was
amazing,
I
right?
was I was gonna go there. I
We can all fucking do that. We can all do it, you know."
well, uh, here's the thing. Here's here's where I stand on that type of motivator, right? Um, I don't, I don't think somebody needs to scream and yell at you constantly. And trust me, I was that guy.
Yeah.
15 years ago, I was
Yeah.
that guy. And I
Yep.
was raised 6 years. I did at RTC at boot camp, 6 years wearing a red rope as a drill instructor for the United States Navy. And so that was ingrained in me in the military mindset. But when it comes to motivation, when it comes to
Mhm.
inspiring others, I don't think you need somebody telling you you're a fucking piece of shit and you
Nope.
need to work harder. And if you're not doing 8 hours of PT a day, you're you're less than, right?
Right.
But the crazy part about that is there are millions and millions of people that do crave it. They need it.
Yeah.
I, because otherwise he'd be broke and we wouldn't know
Yeah.
his name, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, okay, fine, got it. It's not who I am. I was, again, telling my best friend, my angel, my wife, just the other day, it used to be who I am. It's not going to be the kind of personal trainer I'm going to be unless
Nope.
somebody says, "Hey, I need you to put a foot in my 2-pack."
Yeah.
Then okay, got it. That's what you're going to get because
Right.
I've been trained to do that. But I would rather somebody go, you know what, is I just need you to make sure that I'm in the gym. I need you to make sure that I'm doing an extra set. I need you to make sure that, I'm doing that next rep or I'm eating properly or whatever. And then we celebrate together and I get to have a front row seat like I used to as a command master chief at other people's success. That's
Yep.
what I'm craving.
Hell yeah.
I'm missing that tribe. That's what I'm missing is these, I miss being part of other people's success. I
Yeah.
really do in my retirement. But to get back to the social media and the influencers, and it's just crazy to watch.
Yeah.
And I've seen your you've had some folks on. You're wearing the guy's shirt.
Yeah.
He's an in your face,
Yeah.
cuss at you kind of cat. And
Yeah.
okay, great, but
Yeah.
and I don't really know what his background is, but not everybody's going to be a Navy SEAL. Sorry.
Right.
Sorry. Not everybody is a David Goggins.
That's right.
Sorry.
That's right.
And this is going to be maybe controversial, but those guys lead like-minded, highly successful people. You lead folks, I led folks that didn't go to buds, right?
Right.
That were washouts from XYZ school. And then we have to learn how to motivate them. I would tell you that that is a leadership challenge all in and of itself. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that leading in combat or doing the things that I'm not taking away from any of that. We should all admire and try to emulate those cats. but my point of view is that there's a lot to be offered in leading people that don't want to be led.
Dude, you just hit it. That's it. That's it, dude. So if you know anything about Navy SEALs, EOD, they're pretty similar, divers, or like any of those kind of special warfare community guys, right? Like, again, disclaimer, I have never been in combat, and I can only imagine getting shot at is pretty tough, right? But all of those guys, and I know a lot of them, right? All of those guys are all 99.99%. They show up ready to fucking go every day. They are the cream of the crop, quote, air quotes. Like, I'm not saying it's easy to lead a group of alphas like that, but what you don't have to do is convince them that they're good. They know they're good, right?
Right. You don't have to convince them to get underway. You don't have to. I mean, come on, man.
Exactly, right?
You know,
like they know the drill, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, but here's the thing, though. The thing is that like that is such a small sliver of society, whether it's Navy SEALs or whether it's really high level athletes, like that sliver of society is so small, and not a lot of people are going to get to that point. They're just not. And David Goggins probably does have millions of followers and people that love him and everything, and he should, because he does badass shit, man. He's a cool dude, right? I'd love to sit down and talk to him. I bet he's awesome, right? But the people that follow him, they ain't doing the shit he's doing. And so who needs the coaching, who needs the mentorship, who needs leaders that know how to motivate them, are the average fucking Joes out there. Right. That's the population. That's the customer base, if you really want to get to it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's the people that need guys like you, the guys that need guys like me. Like, I know how to lead a crew of sailors that just were told they were going to have a 96, and then I called them back from the 96 and said, we're getting underway in 6 hours. Like, I know how to lead those people, right? Yeah. And that is the larger segment of society. That's the cross section. I know how to do that. And that's who needs it the worst.
And there's nothing. I mean, let's not take away from the average sailor, right? I mean, they are amazing individuals, right? And they, in my opinion, are the best of what this country has to offer across the board. I don't care what community they're in, SEALs, all the way down to submariners. You know how I'm putting them at the bottom?
Down. I get it.
But there's always a percentage. You know, they say you spend 90% of your time with 10% of your people.
Yeah.
Those 10%, realistically, when people are reading books that are written by Navy SEALs, by the way, Steve Drum just wrote a book, Life on the X. Go out, buy it, everybody. Love Steve. He's been on my show before. Retired Navy SEAL Master Chief. He wrote the toughness the sailor toughness program up at RTC. Yep. But anyway, mental toughness. That's all Steve Drum. The reason people follow Steve is because they want to be like him, right?
Yeah.
You know, they want to be the guys who seem to have it all together. They want to emulate them. My point is that that there is so much more to just showing up and showing out, on a video, or, it's a daily grind. It's building rapport. It's learning your sailors. It's understanding what they're going through. It's having conversations on the deck plates with the average person, like the average person whose girlfriend might have cheated on him last night. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying Navy SEALs don't have those issues. I'm just saying that across the board in our military as a whole, motivating people en masse, especially folks that aren't all like-minded, and you have to work and a diverse population of thinkers. When I say diverse, I mean thinkers. When you have to motivate a diverse population of thinkers, it's tough. It's tough. And you want to talk about always being on the chopping block and standing in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people. You say the wrong thing, especially in today's society, and they've got this up, and they're waiting to take a picture or record you, and file an IG, and try to hold you accountable. They weaponize those programs.
Right.
It's tough. And
Yeah.
and all week long, I've thought about Roosevelt's man in the arena, dare to live greatly, be in the arena. Shut your fucking mouth if you're not in the arena.
Yep.
I normally don't drop the F-bomb, but man, shut up. If you're not out there doing it, if you're not in the middle of it, if you're not even on these videos, it kills me. Keyboard warriors. Oh yeah. How about you could have been a better leader? Okay. How about you walk a mile in my shoes? Then shut up. And then I'll listen. But
Right.
Brene Brown said it perfectly. She said, if you're not in the arena, I'm not listening to you.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, and I think that when we look at guys like you and I've had a big, dude, I can go all the way back to high school. and, I talked about this yesterday on the Permission to Speak Freely podcast. Like, I got recruited in high school. I mean, bro, I got recruited by Harvard, right? I got recruited by Arkansas, Kansas State, Tulane for football. And I can go all the way back to 17, 18-year-old Dean and put my finger on imposter syndrome, right? 100%, dude. 100%. I didn't know what it was back then, but I can remember exactly how I felt, and how I felt was like, oh, that's cool. They wrote me a letter, but they're writing everybody letters like these.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so I didn't pursue it. And I don't regret it. That's not what I'm saying, right? Like, oh, I'm not pulling a fucking Al Bundy here, right? But like, I remember that feeling. And now fast forward to like 42-year-old Dean, and I was experiencing the same shit. And what I decided, and it took time. It wasn't just in these last 75 days. This has been probably 2 to 3 years in the making. What I decided is that, like, hey man, like, you 100% have something to offer. You have experience, you've got talent, you've got intelligence, and you just have to be brave enough to put yourself out there. Right. And so, like, dude, like, whenever I post any YouTube shorts, I make sure to click, because you have an option. You can say hold potentially inappropriate comments. I'm like, nope, all comments.
Yeah.
I want to see all of them, dude. I want to see all of them. And so I did a video not long ago. Right. I did a video not long ago where I said, hey, this is for the young men, and specifically for like teenagers. This is for the young men. And what I told them, I said, listen to your fucking parents, set some goals, do some hard shit, stop watching porn, treat women with respect, right? Mm-hmm. And I got a lot, like, it was crazy. Like, that message for young men, like, do something good with your fucking life. That was the message, right? I got all kinds of negative feedback on that post, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, fucking bring it. Let's go, right? Because that's the message they need to hear, because their parents aren't fucking talking to them, right? Yeah. Sorry, they're not engaging in conversation with their own kids. And so, sorry, if I'm going to get on social media and I'm going to tell your kids, like, your young men, like, treat women with respect, you little shit, right? Like, hey, I'll be your Huckleberry. I'll fucking do it. Bring the heat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was actually that was gonna be my next topic, was social media. Is like, I'm immersed in it. I probably spend way too much time on my phone because, well, part of now what, my business is, social media, and my algorithm's pretty good. I keep a tight eye on it, but it's weird what gets, let's just use TikTok, for example, what gets watched, right? We could do a video that's positive, that says, hey, treat women well, period. That's the message. 10 seconds. And it gets, like, the requisite 500 views on TikTok before they shut it down. I watched a video today, which I ended up clicking not interested on. In other words, don't show me any of these because I'm protecting my algorithm, of a woman with a crop top on, straightening the towel in her background because somebody commented, please, my OCD is being bothered by the towel. That video got 66,000 likes, not views. I'm sure it was close to 500,000 views. It was a woman in a crop top straightening a towel, got 66,000 likes. You just, I don't understand it. And I don't know how you influence a world that is, because I know you're trying to bring positivity. I know that's the message I try to focus on in every one of my posts is positivity.
Yep.
How do you overcome the tsunami? And I use that term because you're over there in Japan. Of negativity and mindless entertainment. Nothing against her. She really wasn't being risque. She was just being a smartass in her video and straightening the towel. She was beautiful, and that's why it got 66,000 likes.
Right.
I'll say it out loud.
Yeah.
But how do we, and I had this conversation with Neil Ford when I had him on a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
How do we overcome that negativity? How do you do it? What's your game plan?
Yeah, man, I think it's a big conversation, honestly. So, social media gets so much hate these days, and probably rightfully so, because, people are weak-minded and they don't use it as, they don't monitor their algorithm. They just allow whatever trash ends up on their feed to continue to show up on their feed, right? And so I think there's a couple things. First of all, bro, like coming from our background, this idea of building your personal brand, it's like,
oh yeah,
you really got to overcome some again, imposter syndrome. And because you feel like you're being a braggart. You feel like you're, being an expositioner. You feel like, oh my God, like I'm doing the exact opposite of what I've always told people to do.
It's not humility. Humility is
be
pounded
humble.
into your head.
You got to be a quiet, humble servant leader, right? And so, and yeah, there's definitely value in that, right? Like, servant leader is you should be that 100%. You should. But if you want to have an impact, these days, if you want to have a wide reaching impact, then you have to take advantage of the tools that are provided for us vis-a-vis Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, all of the social media platforms. You're going to have to do it, right? And so overcoming this self-resistance to build a personal brand is super tough, man. And I'm still working through it, right? But I know that it had, like, just like anything else, if I want to beat that algorithm, if I want to, throw my hat into the arena of social media, if I want to be a creator, if I want to build my personal brand, number one, I have to be consistent. I have to post every fucking day. I have to, right? And so Sean Whalen, I had him on the podcast. I look up to him. One of the things he talks about, man, and he's got a huge following and he's got a great business. And, he runs a big coaching group called the Lions Den. And, and even if you listen to like Andy Frisella, who owns First Form and has done some huge things in his life, the thing they say is, like, if I were starting today, I have some future company that I want to do. The first thing I would do is, I've got the tools, man, and I would establish a personal brand, and I would get my message out there. Yeah. And so I think that, if you want to talk about the technical aspect of it, if you want to overcome the girl in the crop top straightening the towel behind her, then you have to establish a footprint, and that takes time. That takes years. That takes thousands of clips and reels and shorts and TikToks. Like, it's going to take thousands, and it's going to be a daily, consistent. Just like I go for my outdoor walk, just like I'm going to go lift weights, just like I'm going to go sit in the sauna for 20 minutes, I'm going to post a reel, right? I'm going to post a clip from my podcast. I've got it all laid out. And over time, that builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And so I go from having, 500 views in a 30-day period on YouTube to having 10,000 views, let's just say, in a year from now, maybe. And so I think that to beat that algorithm, you have to be consistent in your ability to actually post, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. It's hard because when I'm walking by the seawall and I've got the phone in my fucking face, certainly the first few times I was like, dude, you're such a fucking chump. Like, what are you doing right now? You know?
Chode.
Right. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
then 30 editions into it, like, hey man, holy shit, I can't wait to do this because I actually got something I want to say that I think is important. And also that I know is being well received and having an impact. It's positive, and it's building my algorithm, which is building my personal brand, which
Right.
goes toward what I want to do eventually, you know?
Right.
So
Yeah, I agree. It's, and it was the same advice Neil Ford gave a couple weeks ago, was just carry on, keep doing you, because in the end you're going to win. And
right.
that I believe in a true balance of, if you will, good and evil, positivity and
Yeah.
negativity.
Yeah.
I believe that the scales balance eventually. And even the guys that are cussing, and screaming and yelling at the camera, their messages, for the most part, are positive messages. For the most part, there's a little bit of bullying going on that I don't agree with in the health and fitness industry, but
Yeah.
then you got guys like Joey Swoll who have 5 million people that follow him, and and he's nothing but positive, and
Yeah.
I actually tag Joey Swoll in videos that I think that he needs to pay attention to, because I think those guys that are doing positive things in gyms need to get, it's time for him to start raising people up,
Mm,
you know, uh, he's now got success, and the best thing you can do with success is turn around and help other people up. And
for
I
sure.
mean, especially the guy I saw today, he had like 26 followers, and his video was amazing. Just some 86-year-old man that comes into the gym and seeks him out every day just to say hi. How
Yeah.
cool is
Yeah.
that video?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I hope Joey Swoll grabs a hold of that one, and that kid ends up with 100,000 followers by next
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because that's just positivity and good stuff.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, man, another
Mhm.
part of it is that like over time, and again, I'm young in the game, man, right?
Uh-oh.
Young in this game. And
Yeah.
honestly, it's kind of fun, man. You know, it's kind of fun to be a novice again at something. Um, right.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think that eventually you do kind of you get a hit. And for me, probably my first kind of like hit, if you will, was when Hannah Eden. I don't know if you follow Hannah Eden at all, but um, so I've been following her forever. She's an athlete for On It
Oh,
down in
yeah, I
Austin,
did see some of
Texas.
your clips. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
dude. She agreed to come on the podcast, and we had a great conversation. And um, she follows me on Instagram now and likes a lot of my my videos. And the reason why I tell you that is not to like brag, right? Of course, I'm not saying, oh, look, Hannah even follows me. Who gives a fuck, right?
yeah.
It's the fact that in my mind, like, she's got a huge personal brand that she's built over the last 2 decades. And so she's done it, right? And same thing with Matt Vincent, who I had on the podcast. Like, they've done it, right? Like, they have this huge following and they are doing things that I want to do in my life. And the fact that they see the things that I'm doing and respond when, if I shoot them a DM, give me some advice. Okay, it's validation, right? And you need that sometimes, and you need it from somebody that's in the space that you want to get to, and that is a very rewarding thing for me. Is that it is a little bit of affirmation, right? Like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going down the right path, and eventually, I think if you stay consistent and you're putting out a good message and you're being positive, you have your own take on things, which is unique to you, like you do is like I do in my world. Then I think eventually somebody out there is going to kind of latch on and say, just like you said, like, hey man, you're doing good shit. Like, let me give you a few pointers, few pieces of advice. And matter of fact, let me try to kind of pull you up into this realm. That's the way the world works, man. Right? Whether you're in the Chiefs mess or whether you're in business, like, people are going to pull other people alongside that have common interests and that they find value in.
Yeah,
And you just got to create that value.
yeah. Well, I really appreciate you joining me today, man. It was a solid hour of of talk. It was
Fuck yeah, man.
fun as usual. And
sorry I cuss so much to the viewers.
it's all right.
It is what it is, man. I try to like control it, and like I stopped. I don't care. This is who I am. So sorry.
It's fine. Hey, just do you want? Tell you what, I'm going to put a link. I'll go into my socials tomorrow, and I'll put a link to your podcast and all that stuff. You could just text me that. So if anybody's interested in checking out the Rising Sun podcast and following Dean on his socials, his message is very similar to mine. So, if you're following him, if you're following me, you want double trouble there, then follow him too, because it's going to be a lot of the same, and but just with a different flavor, maybe a little bit more cussing. But
if that's your thing, you got the right guy.
Yeah. We're sailors. What can we do? Anyway, exactly. Brother, it's been a pleasure, man. I'm gonna do my closing and stick around for a sec.
All right.
All right. Hey, motivators, I really appreciate you joining us. That was probably the longest one I've done, but I probably could have gone a little bit longer. I actually watched a 3-hour podcast this week and thought, man, this is really too long. So an hour is about the max I'll ever do. And if me and that guest are really having a good time, maybe I'll bring them back in a few weeks or a few months, and we'll do a second show. But anyway, don't forget to check out Mindset Gear for the Motivator at Shopify. It's Motivate with Iz at Shopify, and go on to I'm on TikTok. I'm actually on Twitter. Don't use that too much, but YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. The content isn't the same at every site. I do share a lot of the same videos, but the messages sometimes change over time because everything evolves. So thanks for joining me. Come back on Tuesday. I'm going to be here for another episode of Leadership Jam Session. We're going to go back to episode 13, and I'm looking forward to having Marina Rabinek on board for the show. She's a big influencer on a veteran advocate, and a big influencer on LinkedIn. So talk to you then. Love you. Mean it. Get out. Motivate.